For the RHCSA exam, you do not need to know all of the ins and outs of SELinux in great detail. You will, however, be responsible for having SELinux enabled and properly configured for the completion of your exam. You should not need to modify any of the default policies that are built into the system, but you will need to know how to troubleshoot an SELinux related issue and configure services to properly work with SELinux. SELinux is short for Security Enhanced Linux. It was developed by the NSA, the National Security Agency, and they released it as open source in December of 2000. Red Hat first introduced SELinux in their Red Hat Enterprise Linux 4 distribution. SELinux is a mandatory access control system, which means that the operating system restricts the ability of a thread or process to access or use a resource on the system referred to as a target. SELinux performs its protection of this system through kernel modules and user space tools. And these kernel modules are known as Linux security modules. SELinux has multiple types of policies, but the one in use by RHEL is the targeted policy. A targeted policy restricts a target's access to resources. Examples of targets are memory locations, TCP/UDP ports, directories or files, and others. There are three modes for SELinux. The first is the enforcing mode, which is the system default. In this mode, SELinux is on and checking policies when a system resource is requested. You will need to have SELinux in this mode with all policies properly working to pass the exam. And in permissive mode, no policies on the system are enforced, but they are checked. If there is a policy violation that occurs on the system, you will get a warning, but you will be able to carry on as if SELinux wasn't even on the system. This is best used for troubleshooting to see if SELinux is preventing something from working properly. Once the issue is resolved, SELinux will need to be back in enforcing mode. Finally, disabled mode. In this mode, no SELinux policies are enforced or checked. If you disable SELinux on a system that has it enabled, then the file system will need to be relabeled at the next system boot, which can take a long time. Do not use this mode during the exam, as it will cost you time. If you need to troubleshoot, switch back and forth between enforcing and permissive modes. SELinux is essentially a system that reads and checks labels, and another term for these labels are security context. The old Unix adage of everything on a system is a file comes into play here, since every file on the system has a security context. That includes running processes and even network ports. SELinux is a type enforcement system. Basically what that means is that an SELinux policy's rules dictate what processes are allowed access to certain types of files. SELinux messages, such as allowing or denying access to a process, are cached on the system. This cache is known as the Access Vector Cache, or AVC. SELinux messages can be found in var log messages, but the most important location for SELinux messages is located at var log audit.log. This is where you need to check if you believe that you have an SELinux related error or problem. When you get what is known as an AVC denial message, this is where you will find it. With the following videos in this section, we will see these concepts in action.